Carl's procedure, it's consistent. More consistent than
More
Andy
consistent.
Cohen. A lot more
Mm-hmm.
consistent.
Mitch, you are 100% right on that.
Yeah.
He is consistent, and I expect him to always be consistently immoral. You don't have to own
We
anything,
know.
you know.
We know.
This is your the girl went to jail for what?
We have Carlos on the other side who is consistent, who doesn't have any boundaries or any limitations. He uses and abuses most of his employees on camera and behind the camera.
Mhm.
Most of the
Now, how do
freelancers
you know
that work
that?
for him no longer do
Girl,
anymore.
I don't understand why you would say that when you have no knowledge of that.
Listen, keep the personal beef onto yourself. It's a debate. We're going to
I
continue
don't
on
have a
with the
beef.
show. What's the
You're
next
the
question,
spicy
Mitch?
one,
I'm bored.
sweetheart.
Hey, it's a brotherhood. Woohoo!
So, bros, Andy Cohen and Carlos King, they both have stars facing revenge allegations. And these EPs are handling the situation completely differently. It looks like with Martell, Carlos King has decided to follow the reality. He's kept Martell on the show to show us how it's playing out with Martell and Melody. Whereas Kenya has exited the show in the middle of filming. Eric, I'm gonna start with you. Between Carlos King and Andy Cohen, who do you think is handling this revenge scandal the best?
I think that Carlos has a different situation on his hands because Martell didn't like straight up show it to like a group of people, which is a little bit different. And doing it on camera, I think that Kenya made a mistake in the sense of right now with Bravo, everybody's trying to sue Bravo. And I think she's a casualty at war. I think she pulled this stunt, and I think Andy had no choice. And I think the network had no choice but to cut her. But it's also because of the fact that she did it in a room full of people, fully mic'd with cameras. And what are you supposed to do?
I like to believe that the network did its due diligence and researched and confirmed. And if they felt that Kenya needs to go, then she should go. I don't think it's an issue um, that Kenya's going to be gone.
Yeah. So, Damien, you've worked professionally with Love and Marriage as a producer. What's your thought?
Well, like you said, Carlos follows the reality with things, and this, whether the cameras were rolling or not, this would have happened in Martell and Melody's life regardless. When it comes to Kenya, I feel like it was more premeditated, right? I've got to go in here, I got to make a good show, let me do this.
Mhm.
Um, Melody and Martell, like I said, whether those cameras were up or not, he would have still done that. So I think that's why Carlos is doing it. And I also think it's unfair to blame Carlos or Andy because, this really comes down to the people wearing the suits in the headquarters in New York and LA. It's all entertainment, politics, and it really comes down to the advertising dollars. If you think about it, it's all about the money. And if it means getting rid of somebody to avoid the backlash, to avoid the advertisers dropping out, then you got to get rid of them.
Victor, do you think it's unfair to blame Carlos King for how the revenge scandal on Love and Marriage is being handled?
No, of course not. I do not think that it's unfair. I think Carlos King is messy. I think, just as Izzy said, there are some procedures that you follow. I think Carlos King's procedures follow as this blank, nothing. I don't think he follows any procedures. I don't think he follows anything. I think this is someone who had someone who on Love and Hip Hop called Spice a Monkey. He gave her a platform. This is someone who finds it funny when people in his cast go to jail. This is someone who just doesn't take things seriously. I think if Kenya did the same thing and she showed allegedly something public, I don't think he would have had any repercussions. And I don't think he has those limits of, okay, this is unacceptable. We can't be showing this.
Victor, Carlos's procedure, it's consistent. More consistent than
More
Andy Cohen.
consistent.
A lot more
Mhm.
consistent. Because with Andy Cohen, with this housewife, they'll get fired. For example, with Brandy, but then someone over here will stay. Kenya Moore has been asked to leave, but there have been stars on Vanderpump Rules that have had similar situations. It's very inconsistent over
Similar
on
how?
Bravo, very inconsistent over on Bravo, very inconsistent with Andy Cohen.
Yeah,
And I
I
think
agree.
I the reason why I don't have an issue with how Carlos King is handling it is because he's not constantly moving the goalposts, which I think is really important to
Mm-hmm.
keep in mind the way Andy has
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
The consequence isn't applied evenly at all.
Well, I
Tamar,
think I
wait,
think
hold
one.
on. One second. I want you to respond to that. Keep it. But Tamar,
I was gonna say I'm really with Victor on this. Keep in mind that all of these is not facts. Like all of these are just rumors of what we're hearing about Kenya Moore. We've seen different behind the scene pictures. Have you guys seen the poster?
oh,
Allegedly,
no, Tamar, no,
No.
I haven't.
y'all haven't seen it. Where have you
No,
I need parental guidance for that.
been? Bruh.
girl.
Oh my
Well,
god.
allegedly, I've seen it on Instagram. Allegedly, with Kenya holding
Instagram.
up her shot,
Yeah,
she's holding up her cup or whatever, cheers it and everything. I will say it was a bit tacky to me. It was a bit tacky. However, which is why I say I feel like Bravo has to cherry pick what they want to put in there. Otherwise, you have Carlos on the other side who is consistent, who doesn't have any boundaries or any limitations for people who's on camera or even behind the camera. He uses and abuses most of his employees on camera and behind the camera.
Mhm.
Most of the
now how do
freelancers
you know
that work
that?
for him no longer do
Girl,
anymore. So it's like
come
most of
on now.
those, that's pretty much how it goes with the Carlos King situation in Bravo, but that's how I am with it.
Damien, what do you think of that?
Um, be careful is all I gotta say. I hope you don't see this because that money's long over there. I'd hate to take,
Is it?
what you got left. I don't know. I mean, I don't understand why you would say that when you have no knowledge of that.
Listen, keep the personal beef onto yourself. It's a debate. We're going to
I
continue
don't
on
have a
with the
beef.
show. What's the
You're
next
the
question,
spicy
Mitch?
one,
I'm bored.
sweetheart. I don't have a beef. I just
What's
asked
the
you a
question?
question.
I'm bored.
Me
Let's
too.
continue on,
So
Mitch.
Yeah.
Eric, do you agree with that? Carlos could have handled the situation differently.
I disagree with Victor in the sense where I do not think that Andy Cohen really thinks about the audience at all. We see that with Monica. The audience wanted Monica back. And because she gave production away, they said the chop. You look at Vicky Gungelson, her man faked cancer on
Right.
national television. And she was on for 3 more seasons.
Yeah,
That is absolutely insane
that was
when you think
chaotic.
about that. He brought in like fabricated what is it scans like that were
Test
like
results. Yeah.
misprinted. Like that is absolutely insane to allow that to happen and then Miss Kenya acts a little bit of a fool and y'all get rid of her. However, I don't agree with revenge. I do agree that she should have been reprimanded, but you if it goes back to the match of debate, a white woman's going to get away with something a black woman can't get away of, and she's not going to ever be able to do half of the things that that white woman could do.
That was my point directed at Victor. It's like Victor, you're saying that Carlos King does not have procedures
Mhm.
but the thing about it is Andy Cohen isn't consistent with how he handles these controversies.
Well, I think we need to take into account that Carlos is directly from Andy. He worked for Andy. He was an executive producer with Andy. So if anything, they're probably more alike than we know because they share. I'm sure Andy helped Carlos become the producer that he is now. You know what I mean? He didn't show up an executive producer to Housewives of Atlanta. He was just a story arc producer with Teresa and then Nene. I mean, he got the lot of the litter, man. If you're gonna get any wild housewives, Teresa and Nene's the two to get.
But Victor, respond to that.
Yeah. So allegedly, Carlos isn't dealing with all of them because he was where that allegation that Phaedra passed on to Portia originated. So that's allegedly, which is why he's not dealing with any of those networks. So while I can understand some double standards, I think it is based on the optics. I think if it's a situation where Kenya had verbally, we don't know because we haven't watched the season, but if Kenya verbally had exposed Brit for doing that, I think there would be a double standard and it would be kind of a bit too harsh in comparison to others. If she actually allegedly showed that poster of her nude at an event, then I do think that's kind of different because we haven't seen anything to that extremity before. So I would understand
Yeah.
some type of suspension. I also don't understand if it's a suspension or an exit, like Drew said, because we're hearing different things. But some type of consequence, I think, is in order if that was something that was public. I think as far as Carlos King, I don't think the way about it is to kind of have a free for all where there is no consequences. So where Andy, I think that we want more consistency. There's consistency in Carlos because there's consistently no consequences for any of his cast members' behavior or even former producers.
You can't stop it, can you?
No, but it's true.
Clock it. Clock the tape.
She gotta end it the same way. I love it.
You don't have to own
We
anything,
know. We know.
But
you
is
don't
it
have to
safe
own
to
a
say
thing. You
that
don't have
they
to own
might
any
be?
morals.
Is it safe to say that they might be getting like punished behind the scenes that we don't know, like getting fined or getting your episodes
They're getting
limited, or
you know what they're getting? A pay rise. That's what they're getting.
maybe?
Carlos is like, well done, you went to jail. Pay rise.
To
There you go.
defend Carlos a little
Storyline.
bit, he had his biggest scandal as Andy's had to deal with. In all fairness, the biggest scandal is this Martell thing, and it wasn't really released. It was kind of like held in courts and stuff. So he hasn't dealt with like a scandal or like for us to really see how he would handle it. Let's see him handle something like faking cancer. I want to see him handle that, and then we can decide because Bravo didn't do a good job, and he can show them up.
Well, apparently, according to what he would do when he was on Housewives, and according to his alleged, participation in the rumors and stuff like that, there's never been a history into where he's dealt with stuff. I think, and he laughed about people going to jail. He interviews people who are on the other end of these consequences and gives them a platform for their behavior. So I think based on consistency on his behavior, that is something Mitch, you are 100% right on that.
Yeah.
He is consistent, and I expect him to always be consistently immoral. That's my expectation of him.
But I think you're taking, because I know what you're talking about with
Oh
Carlos
my gosh.
laughing.
Now, what the hell going on with this? Can you break that down for me, please? Hello, no, baby. This is your The girl went to jail for what? Now this new. Now y'all told us y'all done went down the street talking about Martell went to jail, and we knew what he went to jail for. But what did she do? Now what kind of hoes you got down there? Carlos.
You know what's so interesting? People are now calling the show Love and Huntsville After Lockup. And I don't understand why.
And I think you're
Mm-hmm.
taking it out of context, Victor, only because I think when he was his his audience, his Love and Marriage audience, they look to Carlos King for the updates on the show. And I think that he has a different personality when it comes to sharing the news, the Love and Marriage news. I don't want it to seem like he's laughing at his stars and their legal
Oh, definitely.
issues.
I love,
That,
and
'cause I don't
and
think
And
that
let's
was the. I
let's
don't think
let's
that's
he
his
kind of
thing.
is.
let's talk about the
He kind
Carlos
of
King
is.
sense of
Laugh, huh?
humor. Because as well in the Carlos King sense of humor, he thinks it's a hilarious read, honey, to talk about someone's eggs, a woman's eggs, as a clapback. You need to be less focused on this. You need to be more focused on your eggs. Who does that? But that's his sense of humor, honey. He's laughing and falling out of his chair, thinking about someone having fertility issues, because that's the type of sense of humor he has. So I wouldn't put anything past him.
Yeah, and listen, for anyone looking in, we've talked about that on Bro Chat, so you can take a look at the full conversation and you can see it there. Now, everyone looking in, make sure you like this video and the Bros of Bro Chat will be back. We'll be back with 5, 4 different iterations of this 6, but this is a rare recording where you get to see all 6
Yes.
of the Bros of Bro Chat together for the very first time. We'll
Mhm.
see you again next time. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.